Hello, this is Lesson 8 for Population Unit, Topic 3.8, Human Population Dynamics. We'll be talking a little bit about the relationship between food production and human population proposed by Thomas Malthus. During this unit, we're going to try to explain how human populations experience growth and decline. What are some of the reasons? The suggested skills in here is being able to eventually describe environmental problems like birth rates, infant mortality rates, and so forth. Does Earth have a carrying capacity? If we look at the Earth's carrying capacity, if we look at Malthus, the Malthus theory, what he proposed is that it does have a carrying capacity, and is based on how much food you produce. The human population is growing faster than what at that point in time than what the food production was growing. So if you see in the graph to the right, there was a constant amount of food production, and that, however, the population was growing exponentially at that point in time. Okay, the humans will reach a carrying capacity limited by the amount of food. However, due to technical advancements, they were able to alter what we see in the graph right to the right. They were able to drastically increase the amount of food. Therefore, there was a huge increase in the amount of population. These innovations include being able to produce nitrogen, starting in 1918 after World War I, that led to synthetic fertilizer that was able to be applied to the crops to help them grow rapidly, and therefore being able to continue supplying food for the growing population. If you look at what happened in the United Kingdom between about 1300 and 2014, you can see between 1270 up to about 1700, there was a constant amount of food. However, about the time of Malthus, there was a gradually increasing amount of food going from 1800 up. It was going up drastically, especially after the innovations of the fertilizer. And again, this will lead to, like what we were saying earlier, if the food, the amount of food goes up right here, that's going to supply the growing population. However, if there's a deficit, that is going to lead to the death of individuals. So, some of the things that happen that we need to understand is, for example, the growth rate. What is the percent increase in population per year? A growth rate of 5% for a population of 100 people means that after 1 year we will be up to 105 people. Crude birth rate, however, and crude death rate is looking at how many births there are and how many deaths there are per 1,000 individuals in the population. For example, the global if the global crude birth rate is 20 and the crude death rate is 8, that means that the crude, that's an example. That would mean that there would be an additional 15 people per 1,000 added to the population. So another thing we want to do is be able to calculate the growth rate, not the crude birth rate, but the growth rate. And to do that, what we had to do is we take the crude death rate, subtract birth rate, subtract the crude death rate, and divide it by 10. Why? Because we want it as percentage, not as per 1,000, but per 100. And that will give us 1.2, not 12, but 1.2%. Okay, we divide, like I said, growth rate is always expressed as a percentage. Now, the rule of 70 is very, very good because it's helped us understand how long it's going to double the population, or to understand what is percent increase. So if it is the doubling time is equal to 70 divided by the percent growth rate. So if the growth rate is 1.2%, we take 70 divided by 1.2, and that will give us 58.3 years. And therefore, the world population will double in 58.3 years. Likewise, if we knew that the doubling time was 58.3 years, we divide 70 by 58.3, and we find out that the growth rate was 1.2%. So a practice would be, country has a crude death rate of 9 and a birth rate of 18. Can you calculate the growth rate and the doubling time? So if we take 18 minus 9 divided by 10, that equals 9 divided by 10, or a 0.9% growth rate. If we divide 70 by 0.9, that means that we will take 78 years to double. Some of the things that affect the population growth include total fertility rate. How many children does a woman have in her lifespan? The more children she is expected to conceive and give birth to, more are going to survive, hopefully. However, if we have a high infant mortality rate, that will drive it up, because if a woman knows that she's going to lose half of her kids, she's going to have more and more kids. She's not going to have 2, she's going to have 4 or 5. And therefore, some of them may actually survive that may not have thought they were going to survive. If you have an immigration into the area, means into, that will cause the population to grow. You have access to clean water and health care, decrease the death rate. That will definitely increase the population. Things that will decrease the population is high death, high infant mortality rate, increased development, for example, education and income, affluenza, and increased education for women understanding what it means to have birth control, women understanding the need for them to go into the job market. Delay in the first age of the child. If women are having the kids at age 15 versus age 30, that means the second woman will experience the birth of the grandchildren of the first lady. If the people do not get married at age 15 like one of my ancestors did, but wait to age 30 or so, again, they're going to delay when they have their first children, and therefore decrease population growth. And again, growth rate is equal to crude death rate minus birth rate divided by 10. Standards of living will determine it also. What is the quality of life for the base people in the country? The gross domestic product is basically looking at the key indicators of standard of living. How much money do they make in that country? It's equal to the total value in goods and services produced by that country. Per capita GDP is also good, because it's looking at the amount of money made per person in the population. Life expectancy is a key indicator, like we talked about, where it indicates how many, basically not how old people are going to get, but how many of the young children are going to die. It's the average age people live in a given country, and it increases when you have clean water, health care, and stable food sources. High GDP and high life expectancy are both indicators of more developed countries, and when we have more developed countries, we have a lower population growth, which we will see tomorrow. So a FRQ Practice 3.8. Can you describe one environmental problem associated with a rapidly growing human population? And could you propose a solution a government could take to slow the population growth? Thank you.